Hi everyone, I'm Allie Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you how to work with these quick link rounded loops. They're a bead-along product and they're 25 millimeters. We sell them in the bead-along packs of 18. They're just silver plated and they have kind of a squared effect to them. They are soldered the whole way around. There's no opening to them, and that we're going to take advantage of today. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to display what we're making out of them. But basically we're making mother's rings, I'm calling them, or mother's ring pendants. And what we're going to be doing is adding the birthstones of children onto the rings. You can also make a fun bracelet, a fun pair of earrings by linking these together. Earrings, you could just put ear wires on. You could do a leather necklace, which are really popular right now, dropping that down a little bit further, and then you'd have that disc and having a long necklace. I think this really does lend itself to be a long necklace when you have them stacked up. The nice thing is you can take them apart, wear them one at a time, wear multiples together. I have two birthstones done here, and just to show you kind of the variety of the different sizes of beads. And I have two done. I'm going to do the third one here so that way I can wear 3 at a time. Another thing that these are great for, if you're doing kind of fancy, you can actually use these as napkin rings when you're doing that. But this I'm going to wear as like a 32-inch necklace, an opera length necklace hanging down from the bottom in that boho chic kind of look that's in right now. The only thing that I'm going to be using other than my ring are my beads and my wire. Depending on your size of your beads, that's going to determine how many beads you're actually using because the loop is staying the same. I'm going to be using this 25 millimeter quick link loop and the 26 gauge artistic wire. 24 gauge will also work for this, but 26 gauge works perfectly and can weave in and out really, really quickly. I have here the Potomac crystals, which are a 3x4 millimeter rondelle, and I'm going to be using 14 of them for my project. So you're going to just kind of lay out 14 of them and go. If you don't coil as tightly, you may use less. If you're using a bigger bead, this one here is a 5 millimeter bead, and I forgot to count. I think I used 11 on the 5 millimeter bead and 14 on the 4 millimeter bead. I also did more wraps, so you can change up your design, but I'm going to be doing it according to the crystal one here, which is going to use 14 crystals, and we're going to be using my wire. Plier wise, I have sitting here my wire cutters. These are Sparkle Tool Set bead-along pliers that I really like. They have a flat side and a V side. And then I also have a bent needle nose pliers here that I'm going to use to kind of pinch down the ends. Also sitting is a ruler. And the ruler, this is a yardstick. It's just going to be used if you're a perfectionist and want to measure your wire. With this project, you're going to always add more wire, but I'm going to show you how to start out with a fair amount of wire. That way you do not need to add. For our ring, we're going to be doing 4 wraps of wire in between each bead. It looks like 5 because we have the start of it, but we're going to wrap around and through our ring 4 times. To do that, I'm going to use about 20 inches of my 26 gauge wire. To make it really easy, I'm going to cut 26 inches of wire. I'll have a little bit left over, but again, if your wrapping's not so tight, you may even use more wire, you may use a little bit less, but 26 inches is going to be enough to do the whole ring and not have to add. So I'm going to measure just off screen here that 26 inches and give that a cut. Push my other beads off to the side. My example's kind of off to the side, and I'm going to be working just with this completely rounded ring. So my wire here is going to go off screen a little bit, and I apologize for that because it's so long. It's a lot easier to work with a project once you get going because the wire decreases more and more. I'm going to just put this aside for a second, my long piece. I'll come back to it. I'm going to show you on a shorter piece just so it stays in frame a little bit better, and then I'm going to tear that off and redo with the bigger wire and then catch up to you guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm always going to be wrapping from the front to the back. I want myself to have a little bit of a tail. It's about a 1/2 inch tail that I'm holding on to, and I'm going to hold with my left hand. For those of you that are left-handed, you're going to hold with your right. I'm going to hold with my left, and that wire that I have extra the tail is going to intersect with the ring below it over the top of the ring. I like when my wire working projects are very systematic and don't have a lot of wire mumbo jumbo. So I'm going to be kind of a stickler as far as how many wraps and which direction I'm wrapping. So the wire's over the top. I'm always going to take my wire to the back of my ring, pull it through the front, and have nice tight coils. I do my first coil and I kind of push it up. In between each one, we're going to have 4 coils in between each one of our beads, and it's just a constant pulling and kind of pushing against that last coil. I want those coils nice and tightly against the ring. Once I have that coil on, I'm only going to do 2 here because we don't want to actually see where the wire stops and it is added. So at the very end, we're only going to have 2 wraps as well. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. You're not going to be able to see then. It's kind of an endless ring and endless beads on the ring. Once you have your 2 wraps, and I know you're pulling a lot of wire through, I'm going to put on my crystal. I'm going to put the crystal right on that thin wire and let it hang out. What you want to do is get a technique that you're always holding with the left. I'm pinching the beads in between my fingers and then bringing my wire around. Give the wire a nice tight pull, but keep the beads exactly the way that you are holding them the whole entire time. So you can see it's going to sit up a little bit. It's not sitting flat along the ring. I don't want that effect. If you do, you kind of want to turn it in your hand and make sure you're doing that for each individual one. I want it a little bit on an angle, so I have that wire coming down. I went underneath behind the ring and wrapped around once. That's my first wrap. Then twice, pushing that wrap closer together as I'm going. There's 3, 4. So I have my 1, 2, 3, 4 coils there. Once I have those 4 coils, the first coil coming from the back, what I'm going to do is add my next crystal on. My crystal's on, and I'm going to wrap behind. Holding again in place. Once I have that first wrap in place, it'll fit nicely. I don't want my crystals to be so super tight together or my coils to be underneath. I want them to be exactly to the side of the crystal. So right where the crystal ends is right where my first loop is going. So I'm going to do my 4 wraps. There's 1. And there's 2. There's 3. And there's my 4th piece of wire coming up. If you need to, you can take your bent needle nose pliers or needle nose pliers or chain nose pliers, whatever you feel comfortable working with. Doesn't really matter. You are going to have those 2 together. So now that I have those 2 beads here together, I'm going to then add my next bead and continue on with my loop. So I'm getting further along my project. I have 2 more beads to add into my design here, and I have about 12 inches left of wire that I've been wrapping with that original 26 inch that I piece that I picked. So I'm going to put a bead on, and as you get further and further into the project, you get better at wrapping, and also it becomes easier because it's a lot shorter, so you can just take the wire over and come right through, pulling it through. When you have the original, 26 inches to pull through, it's a lot to pull through. But when you get the end here, it's a lot easier to do your pulling. I'm going to add my last bead on. And if you get to the end and you have room for 1 more bead, go for it. You can put that on, that's up to you. I would rather kind of spread out my project. If I already had beads laid out, you can just kind of spread the project out. When you get to the end here, we only have those 2 original wraps on this side here. And I'm going to pull mine a little bit tighter. I didn't leave myself a very large tail. It's better to leave yourself a bigger tail like I did on the example. I got going and I forgot. So once I'm through to the end here, I'm going to do 2 wraps around, 1, 2. And what I want to happen is I want my wires to end at the same place. So I'm going to cut this one down here. I'm going to cut the other down. Then when they fold together, they're going to meet right at the tip. You're not going to be able to see then where this starts or finishes. I'm going to take my wire cutters, just leaving a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch left, and the same with the other side. So I have those two little prongs sticking up there. Then I'm going to take my pliers and I'm just going to fold one over, and then I'm going to fold the other over to meet it, and then give a little squish, and then push those 4 coils, or 5 coils in this case, together. That way, you can't really tell where the ring begins and ends. You can then stick it on a chain. You can make one for each birthstones of kids that you have, or you and your husband. You can just make colors that you like also for these infinity circles. But when they're paired up together, they look really great. Again, I'm going to wear this as like a 36-inch necklace, letting these hang and dangle. If you do want to add them to something like leather, I just have a small piece of leather here to show you how to loop them on. If you did want to do one, what you're going to do is take your leather and fold it in half, creating a loop. Pick up your ring, go around one of your beads, push that loop to the back, and pull the 2 pieces of leather or cording from the back to the front. You want to push together, so you can either go in between a bead or through a bead. I'm going to go through a bead area. That way the bead sits right on the top. And there you would have that long, fun piece to wear as a longer necklaces. I wear a lot of longer necklaces. I love the look of it, and I love the look of this kind of endless circle design that you can play with, adding multiples together. You could even stack one on top of the other. You can also, again, if you don't like the look of it there, you can move that loop over beside a crystal. I like the crystal in the middle though. You can just push it beside a crystal in between those coils and push that down, and then it'll be beside one instead of in for one. But it's a really great, fun, easy look. They're really expensive for these endless rings. You can add them to chain. You can add them, again, as kind of decorative pieces because you are going to end up with 18. And really, material-wise, it's super cost-effective because you're only going to use one spool of 26-gauge wire. Once you buy a spool of 26 or 24-gauge wire, unless you do tons of projects, you're going to have tons and tons. And there's 15 yards of wire on here, and we used 26 inches. So, I mean, we didn't really even tap into it much. But it's a great fun design using some crystals, 4 millimeters. You can bump it up and use bigger. You can use smaller. You can actually wrap so that there's extra beads on the inside too if you would want to, coming back and re-wrapping and having fun with that. So the options are endless, but this is just a fun, I was making one and figured I'd show you guys how to do it because I'm going to wear one long like that as a necklace. But then as I was doing them, I thought they'd be really cute to wear together, doing birthstones, and have all the different kids that I can wear on a long necklace as well. So if you like these fun ideas and you'd like to see more, you can subscribe to this YouTube page, and then you get updates when we do fun videos like this and other ones. You can also go to PotomacBeads.com and check out the website. Go to one of our store locations, and we have a number of different kind of endless rings and pewter and hammered and all that fun stuff. So you can check them out at the different locations. Also, if you can't get to one of our stores, you can go below me here to the show more, and you can see exactly which products they are, links to those products, and you can grab those and pick them up from us there if you need to. Thanks a lot for watching. Have fun beading and doing these fun little crafty ideas. This one you really don't need much knowledge at all to do. Your wrapping skills get better as you work. And then there's tons of uses for these, like I said, as napkin holders. You can put them around ponytail holders. You can do them as bracelets, linking them together with jump rings or necklaces, kind of having fun with them. You could link them together, but I like them just as the ring as they are, working them into a long necklace. So have fun beading, everyone, and check out some of our other videos. Thanks a lot for watching.